Okay, so we got ourselves a grapple. It'll be great for moving bushes, but it's a third function kind of grapple. So I need to hook up third function to my tractor. So I got a kit from Summit Hydraulics. I didn't just get the kit for the third function, but I also got the 2 extra functions on the back. Here's a graphical representation of the hydraulics on my tractor. The pump pushes hydraulic fluid around in this loop. And then you can attach all your valves to it. And there's other valves. I'm just only showing the one. I'm showing the one that controls the loader hydraulics. And it's kind of like a little lever in here that as the flow goes through, it can say, okay, let's divert some of this into the yellow line, for instance, this yellow hydraulic line. And then that would push this hydraulic fluid in here, would push this plunger, and the piston would move out. And then that would compress on this side, and so the fluid from this side would have to escape down the green line and then go back to the oil reservoir. If you adjusted that lever, you could make it so the flow went into the green line, and then it would push the plunger back this way, and then the space behind the plunger would force its oil out back down the yellow hydraulic line and back to the oil reservoir, and around and around and around. So I bought myself a grapple, and it has hydraulics on it, and I need to hook up the hydraulics to this loop. I can't do it at this valve. This valve only has room for these. You can buy a kit to hook it up in here, but it's a little more efficient to buy the rear remotes in terms of dollars. So I'm gonna buy the rear remotes, I'll mount them on the back of the tractor, and then I'll run a long line back to the front to my grapple hydraulics. Easy peasy. The kit has 2 parts, 2 steps. I did the first step in the previous video, which was to hook up this Power Beyond kit. And so we disconnect the hard line that goes to the return port, and we run a soft line that goes to the P on this bracket. There's a nice fitting there so I can connect things up later. And then we run another hydraulic line from the R back to that return port. And then they give us an extra one that goes from the T to the top of the tank. We take this bolt off the top of the tank and we will attach this to there. And so this gives us a way to hook up things like on the back end, we could hook up a backhoe, different things like that. At the moment, this is interrupted by the fitting that's up here. So the pump would go around, the pressure would get to this fitting and it would be stuck. And if I left it running like that for a long time, the pump would burn out. So we don't want that. So we have a temporary thing that we can hook up. It actually starts on the R side and goes up and connects into the fitting. So that's the plan. And at this point, you could drive your tractor around. The pump would operate the loader. Everything would be good. If I got a backhoe, I could hook that up on the back here. Great. And it's basically extending this loop further back. But again, I'm interested in the grapple. This doesn't help my grapple. So I need to get my rear remotes. So the rear remote kit starts with a manifold. And a manifold is like a nice big chunk of aluminum with holes drilled in it that act as passages that let this hydraulic loop extend through this block of aluminum and then connect the solenoid valves that are going to be in here. So I disconnect that. I connect the P up to the one side of this. Flow will go through all of these chambers and then back out towards the tank and back into the oil reservoir. So again, once I've got the holes closed, this is a loop again. It goes all the way around. And I've basically extended this loop up into this valve body. So then, of course, you attach your 3 remotes. And these are solenoid valves, which means that they have a little thing that can open and close a valve to take hydraulic fluid off this loop, a little electrical switch that activates the solenoid and opens the valve. So if I open the valves in this one, I can send it to the green line or the yellow line. And same with this one, I can send it to the green line or the yellow line, takes the power off this loop and sends it down the line. Now, what am I going to put at the end of that? I don't know. Hydraulic top link, maybe, something like that. You could even get a block that had a 4th one. It's only $200 more. I know that's efficient price-wise, but I still always love resisting spending that extra money. So I think this will be enough for me. What I'm after is the third function going forward. So I can run some lines from this forward from the tractor all the way to my grapple hydraulics. Line that direction, a line in this direction. The solenoid switch for this, the little electrical part, will go all the way down. I'll run a wire to the same control that's here, and I'll put a little switch on the top of this handle that activates this grapple. And because my whole front loader is disconnectable, I need to have a couple connections there. And because the grapple is also disconnectable, I need a couple more. And that's it. With all that, I'll be able to hook that all up and run my grapple. So you got to get the tire off. Mine was liquid filled, so it makes it, several hundred pounds. So be careful when you take that off. Pretty easy if it's already on the ground, just barely above. And the first step is to get off this inside fender. So I'll be taking that off. And once we can access all that sort of thing, we'll go for it. Also, I plan the Summit Hydraulics comes with a little switch thing like this. If you open up the back, you can see it's just two switches in a case. And I guess they mean for you to mount it on some bracket somewhere, like out here or something. But I'm guessing that I'm going to be able to replace these two open knockouts with these two switches and make it a nice clean install. So hopefully that works out, and I'll show you how to do that. Alright, I guess we'll get stuck in here. First step, take off that inside fender. The rest of it all hooked up. So yeah, if I had to do it again 20 minutes, in reality, it took me a couple hours. Because I was just so much doubt and things I was just not quite sure. But now I know where to route everything. It'll be easy peasy. Alright, so in the pictures, it starts out even before step 1. You know, step 1's talking about figure 3. And this little bracket's already on. So I attached that bracket. I thought, okay, well, there's no instructions that actually say that, but I attached the bracket. But then later on, down here, a few steps later, it talks about installing these bolts. And you can see even from here, these bolts cannot be installed unless this is not attached. So I had to remove these again, then attach this and put it back together. So, I don't know, instructions are a little bit annoying in that they're not giving things in the actual right order with the pictures. They never even told me that. So maybe later on they're going to suddenly tell me to bracket that on. But actually I flipped the page already and I didn't see it. So anyway, carrying on. Alright, next step was to mount it. It actually told me to mount it before I put these black things on. But I thought it's easy to put them on the bench. It's not that heavy, but it was pretty heavy. So I ended up taking them off and mounting it without them. Personal preference. It wasn't hard to mount them after anyway. But what I did have to do was flip the whole assembly upside down. They had intended me to put it over here, but I think they weren't quite factoring in these lights. And it was going to be too high, and if I'm sitting here operating it, looking over my right shoulder, that whole assembly was going to be in the way here. So I'd rather just put it on this side. So I ended up flipping these so that these top two, I had to move them to the bottom because I think these are going to be the ones that are going to go to the front. And then my inlets, I still want on the bottom. I don't think this could reach the top anyway. It would never have reached over here, so I don't know what they were thinking. The other bit that didn't quite work out as planned, I'll see if I can go around for it, is these bolts all came with pair washers on each side. And they also came with these rubber isolators. And there was just no way that was going to fit. So I just barely got them to the lock part of the nuts. Something had to give. So I decided to go without the washers because the steel is thick and tight and the bolts aren't going to pull through anyway. And I wanted those isolators, but yeah, I had to make a choice. And even so, it's still bending. Like I had to tighten it till it was bending before. Alright, it turned out I didn't need to go to the store to buy these 90s because they supplied them. That was the plan all along. Also, it doesn't matter that this hose doesn't connect here because it was never supposed to. I don't need a connection for that. They provided two other hoses. It's actually going to have a lot extra hose, I think, because they gave me a 36 and a 40-inch hose to connect from these down to the Power Beyond kit, which is only right here. So, anyway, we'll be able to proceed with that. Attach this one on here, and away we go. You can totally see how this could be done in 30 minutes if you've done it before, or a lot longer if you're figuring it out as you go. So I'm in the lot longer path, but I see what's going on now. So they provided these two elbows, and then they provided these two extra, a 48-inch one and a 36-inch one. You can see it's quite excessive to come around to here. So I think what I can do is this route, I can just take this 36-inch one completely out of the picture. And I'll use it on this line here instead of the 48. So it'll really be the 48 I take out of the picture. I'll use a 36-inch one here, and I'll use the one that was already on my Power Beyond loop here. And this one could just connect right up to here. So let me pop this off and show you. So this guy here, I'll end up moving all the fittings so he can just make this nice. And then that's a much shorter path. And I'll just need to move some fittings around. I'll have a fitting up here, and I'll click it in. Now the question is, what happens if I want to connect a backhoe or something like that, and I need to, shut that loop off? Well, I don't see that happening for a very long time. If it does, I'll buy another hose, or I'll, find wherever I lost this one. So I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to rearrange things so that I don't have all this extra hose just laying around back here. All right, deviating from the plan is never as simple as you'd like. So when I take out all the in-between bits, I end up with this smaller size male connecting to this large female, so that ain't gonna work. So I might have to assemble it the long way first with the long extra hoses, and then one day I'll go to the store and buy the little piece that goes in here, and then we'll be able to finish up. And I'll be able to shorten it and reduce one of these hoses. So that might be a later step. All right, this assembly is somewhat of a series of adjustments as I go. So the next bit is to mount, and I'm going to have slightly different connections, but I'm supposed to mount this bracket here on this. You can see the idea is that it fits on this thing here. And then you're supposed to use straps. This fits right on this bar, fits the straps. But my John Deere, and I think pretty much all of them that I saw anyway, come with this bar on top. And if you put that on, I mean, I guess it sort of still works. The thing's high enough above, but these little straps won't work. They're already maxed out pretty much, and they barely have enough room for the pipe and the strap. So I consider things like getting my welder out and welding the bracket to, I wouldn't weld anything to this tube, but I might weld it to this cover. But I'm going to try something else, which is I'm going to try just taking off that cover and see if I can get this around the bar and then put the cover back on over it, and then at least it'll cover the top part of the silly thing. So that's my next step. All right, so there you go. I've got it strapped on now. And then we put the cover back over it, and hopefully that'll actually look good. We'll see. Yep, not bad. It works. So that's pretty secure on there right now. Doesn't budge at all. And yeah. All right, that works. Now let's continue on. So the next two issues. First, I put that on that side instead of this side because I wanted to be able to look over my right shoulder. But that means I've got a little more length to get around down to the front. So I can't mess around too much with length. And then also, I got this thing used, and I would never have paid extra for this quick disconnect thing, but it's kind of cool. Came with it, but that changes my configuration. So this bracket, which I assume was supposed to go on the inside of these bolts in there, now there's this big post in the way, and I can take that off and just move it forward a bit, I think. That should be fine. But the problem is right now, this bracket kind of intersects with all those guys. So I'm going to have to deal with that. And I think also I've got a little less length now, so I think I'm going to flip this over, hook it on the bottom, and try to fit that all in there. And while I'm taking that off, I'll try to move all these out the way. So hopefully that's all doable. We can keep going. All right, so latest troubles. So this is where the bracket's supposed to go. You can put it on the outside or the inside. Maybe I'll have to move it to the outside because I can't get these things in here. I can't get that in there. I can't imagine trying to do it quickly, but I can't even get it in there to click into there. If I had a 90 on this side, maybe I could come in, but I need the 90 for the opposite side. I don't know if moving it out this inch will give me what I need. I did try moving these hoses closer to the other side of that post, but I can't because of what's happening down here. Can't get in. I can't move this over at all. Kind of stuck here. Another option is maybe I could, the inside bit that holds these things, maybe that could slide further down if I get another piece of metal and just lower this from that rack so it hang it lower. I don't know. A little bit of a head scratcher as to how I'm going to make this work with this device. And the funny thing is, when I bought this tractor, I bought it used, but the guy knew a lot about tractors, and I told him I wanted a third function. I said, do you think this is going to stop me? And he said, oh, no, he's got a third function on his other tractor. This shouldn't stop me, but it does require some creativity. So I'll have to figure all that out. Okay, new plan. So it wasn't going to work back there where they wanted it. So I thought, okay, well, if I move the bracket onto the side here, that rotates those things around enough that I can get this in without too much trouble. So that's what I'm going to do. We've rotated it around. Now I just need to run the rest of that line. And I considered cutting off this part because I don't need it anymore. I don't really even need the top part anymore. But then I thought, that'll just help provide a little protection in there. Maybe I can use that mounting points for something at some point. So I think we now know where this bracket's going. Moving on. All right, ever adjusting. So we've got these in here, and you can see it goes down, and I've even already zip tied them, but I'm regretting it now because this path isn't going to work for this length. I'm a little too far forward. Now on the other direction, I've got lots of extra. I got plenty extra going forward, and I'm a little bit short on the back. It comes around here. You can see I'm going to be just a little short. But it turns out that I've got a pair of 96s. I think it says 96 on it somewhere. Okay, no. Yeah, let me show you. Yeah. A pair of them are 96s, and a pair of them are 100s. So 4 inches longer, and it's got a 90. And the only downside is that when I connect up here, I would have to come in perpendicular, which a little bit of danger, but it's not too bad. And I get to save the 4 inches. So I'm going to try that. I'm going to switch the front ones for the back ones, and we'll keep going. All right, I've had to mod this far. Why not go a little further? So here's the switch box that they give you, and it would be supposed to like kind of stick it on top. But I got these 2 blanks. So you can pop those out pretty easily. So I'm considering, I think these switches are going to be the same size. So I'm going to try to pop those out of there, if they'll pop out easily, and mount them directly in my dash. I haven't seen anyone else do this online, but I think it's possible. I'll give it a try. Relatively easiest part so far. So the way to do it is there's these little plastic tabs, and if you push those in, you can slide that up a little. So to get the back side, you just kind of curl your fingers around the back, and you can push those in a little harder while holding the phone, but it ends up popping out like this. So it's the same on the back. So you kind of reach your fingers around, you push those in, and then that can slide out. And then this whole thing slides right in there, and it'll click in, and I'll have my switches. This one here gets a bit close to its neighbor, but there's still room, I think. So I'm going to go for it. I'm going to try wiring those up in there. First thing though, I'll make sure I get the rocker in the right direction. So aerodynamically it faces forward. Okay, I get it. I think it might be about like a constant on foot mode there. I don't know how it works, but I'll figure it out. That sounds good. All right, more one-handed action, just to show you how easy it is to get these in. So I've made sure to point it forward the same way that it should be in the thing, in case that matters later. I haven't used these switches before, and I think there's like a on function. But anyway, all you do is you put it in there. Ta-da! Nice, low profile, no big ugly box to deal with. Great. All right, well there you go. The switches are wired up now. To this end anyway. I've still got to wire up the power on the other end and connect them to the solenoids themselves, but looks good. Should be no problem. I'll probably have to tie it up, of course, so there's no load on those either. Right, next issue. So this is the controller that's going to go on there. And I opened it up because I figured, I'll just run the small wire. I'll make a small hole, maybe drill a small hole in there or something. And I can run the little wire in because the other end of this thing is too fat. The other end looks like that. It's really big. So I can't make a giant hole that big. That'd be crazy. I want to make just a little hole, the diameter of the cable, not the diameter of that big fat thing. So I obviously don't want to mess with up in there. They got soldering. So I think I'm going to have to cut this gray line so I can make a small hole, take it in here and splice it. Also, this isn't very long. It's just barely, I think they were assuming that I was going to put it on that side there. And since I put it over there, I made a few extra bits of work for myself. So I'm going to take this apart, lengthen it, extend it, and make a smaller hole. So that should work out nice. They give you 3 layers of shims, but the handle has a thick part at the bottom and a thin part at the top. So I'm going to use this partial layer as well, and I'm going to go and cut off the top there so that the top part here where it's thinner will have 2 shims in that area, and the bottom part here where it's thicker will only need 1. So that's the plan. But I think that'll give me a much tighter grip than if I only grabbed it with the bottom or only grabbed it with the top. The instructions talk about running the power line all the way up to the battery, but I don't want to do that. That's a long way, and I want it to be tied into fuses and all that other good stuff. And so some people will take it all the way around to the other side of this where there's a fuse box, but there's also a fuse box right there. So I'm going to tie into that instead. Alright, this turned out to be a little too good to be true with this fuse box that's under here. I checked, and then none of them have power. Even the ones that have fuses in them, even those ones don't have power. So I'm gonna have to probably run it to the other fuse box unless I can figure out something else. Alright, so I tried a few things to avoid doing this. I even took off this panel here because I thought maybe I could connect into this 12 volt, but it was too much hassle. So I ended up doing what everyone else does and just running this red wire down underneath this rubber mat. See there, I just ran it under the rubber mat along with my lighting circuit, and then out this corner down here. I'll tuck that in with some zip ties, and then I ran it up. Then I brought it in here, and then into the use of this bonus fuse to get my voltage. I did connect a black wire here just because I had it, but I know that this is connected to plastic, so there's no ground there. But I figured about that. Maybe next time I'll be able to connect to that if I grounded it out. Meanwhile, back on the wire, halfway along, I connected all my blacks together, and I connected them right to the frame, and I've got good ground there, so that's good. So next thing, I'll just wrap these all up. I've got some nice little black stuff to wrap that. They do work if I turn on the key, and I go to my nice switches. You can hear these guys going. So that's all working. One more little wire to finish up there, which is just from the handle, and then I can put this all away. Alright, about to put the wheel back on. You can see the power comes out from the power beyond port there, goes down behind this black shield, and off it goes to the power beyond tube. And then it returns there to the return tank. You can see it on the left. And then those other 2 hoses down below are the ones that are going forward to the loader. And then there's a bunch of other stuff that happened here, wiring and whatnot, that we'll be covering up in a minute with that inside fender. Alright, very near the end now. So the part that didn't come with the kit is how to connect my big fat 1/2" connectors onto these guys here. There's something in between. So I had to go out to the store, to the local place, and get this. $6. The one side is female 3/8 NIC or whatever it's called that threads onto here, and then the other side is gonna let that other thing fit on. Now I'm a little bit worried that when I try to fit the thing on, it's not gonna be enough room in here for the connector, in which case I'll have to take this off, weld it to this, go back a few steps before I can move forward. But let's see what happens. This is a little single type thing right now. And then put this guy on here. Is there room to turn it? Just barely. I think because it angles up slightly, it made enough room. Ooh, it gets a bit tighter as I pull it in. I think it's going to work though. So I have that one, and that one might be the smaller one. I'll have to check and see if the other one also fits. The one that's going to go here, and then I'll be able to connect up and do the final da-da-da. The other thing, one more thing to look at, and we'll fix that in a sec. But while I'm here, so do you see what's going on over here? The previous owner, I think, had some kind of bad accident or had a stick or something jabbed through and pushed all these guys over. I pushed this one a little more back into place, but see this sharp That's not supposed to be like that. This is supposed to aim forward so you get a nice gentle loop. So I'm going to disconnect this guy, take whatever mess I end up getting out of that, and straighten that out so it looks more like it does on this side, where it's just supposed to be a smooth loop like that. So I'll do the same over here, make that a nice smooth loop, and then try to straighten out these bent rigid pipes. So that's the next step. Alright, with the help of a clamp I was able to straighten that out a bit. Not quite all the way, but at least it's in much better shape now. So I think that's it. I've got this stuff connected on now. So I probably should, maybe this should get bungeed up here or something. I don't know what the policy is there. I think I'll grab a bungee cord and I'll bungee that on there. And then I want to test it before I tie all these bits in. So then after testing it, I'll come back and strap all this stuff into the loader arm and so on. So there, yeah, I think it's pretty much ready to go. I gotta connect these guys in, which is just an easy kind of operation, relatively speaking. Maybe not so easy one-handed, but I can get that in there. And then I'm gonna start her up. I haven't put this all back together yet because, let me show you that. Again, I got a used machine and it has these weird stains on it. And they are not, like, you can't feel them. They're inside. The guy thinks maybe it was brake cleaner fluid or something that stained this plastic. And so I got to sand it off. I already sanded a couple of the panels and polished them, and they look okay. That's another topic. But for now, I just want to make sure the hydraulics work. So let's not get ahead of ourselves on all this other cosmetic stuff. And let's get this thing backed out of here. I'll see if I can grab someone to film for me. Alright, now we'll power it up and see if we get leaks squirting everywhere. If you see anything, tell me and I'll stop it right away. I don't think we're going to have leaks, but we'll see. Alright. Ready, Freddy? Go. Okay, we saw a leak. That's unfortunate. Where is it coming from? Not exactly sure, but I guess it's probably this fitting here. That's probably this fitting right here. And or this fitting right... Oh, no, I see it's up there. Where's it coming from? Oh, I found the culprit. That guy's a little loose. Okay, time to clean up the mess. All right, so now let's do a final review here, see what's happening. I had some leaks at the end here. They were minor, just I didn't tighten things quite right. When I went through the first time, I think I tightened everything carefully. But then with all the on and offs and modifications and changing things, like as for things like making sure that my button is right, like that one there closes, that one there opens, I lucked out 50-50. But if I had guessed wrong, then all I would have done was come back here, and the way these things are wired, there's these little clips that sends the signal to the one side of the solenoid or the other side of the solenoid. So if I got it wrong, I would have just swapped these. But I happened to get lucky, and I didn't have a problem. Here are the light buttons that I showed you. So when I turn on the main lights, over here, that turns on this guy. But then when I turn on this one, then we get all these magnet lights. And they're nice little magnets that I got from Harbor Freight. And then I covered them in that window liner stuff so they wouldn't scratch my black paint job. And I could move those anywhere I want to move them, aim them however I want to aim them, do whatever I need to do. What else do I want to show you? Oh yeah, on the fittings up there, I got the flat face connectors which was kind of a little bit of a hassle. I had to buy the right little connector between them. The one was a female 3/8 NIC to that 1/2-inch male connector, so that I could put those on there. That all worked out fine. What else I need to tell you? That's about it. So, that said, I think that's it. We can go for a drive and start grabbing trees. So let's start it up one last time. Alrighty. And forward closes those. Back button opens those. I have it kind of comfortable here, a bit of an angle to this so that it feels just right. I can operate the loader. At the same time, I can be lowering it and closing it, or raising it and opening it, whatever I want to do. Multifunction. And of course, we can drive around. Let's get some throttle. Oh. Put it into low. Lower my parking brake. And alright. I think I'll just get it off the driveway for now, so I don't have